Hey, welcome to Be That, Create That, the podcast where we teach women in leadership to step confidently into their next level in career and life, using some intentional action steps so that they can be who they admire and create what they desire. I'm Tree on Top. I'm a leadership performance coach, inspired working with women in areas of all leadership and personal development. A true personal development junkie, because I have seen the shifts that have happened in my life and in the lives of my clients and teams with these types of tools applied. I believe happiness equals progress and fulfillment is then the result. So I know with small intentional actions in leading ourselves every day, we can make the impact we'd like to see in the world around us through leadership and influence. In this podcast, you're going to hear everyday leadership lessons from my clients, my teams, or my own experiences that have improved communication, culture, collaboration, ultimately creating a ripple effect throughout our networks. So let's get started and let's get intentional. Hey guys, welcome back to the Be That, Create That channel. Tree on Top here, your leadership performance coach. Excited to have you guys here today because we're going to be talking about how employee recognition is not a one size fits all. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace that is going to help leaders inspire some great performance. And it's also going to give you an opportunity to retain some top talent. So the first step to figuring out a valuable working relationship between your team and even creating a culture of recognition is learning about each other's primary language of appreciation. So if you can learn to express some genuine appreciation for your coworkers, for your team, how their specific contributions and actions are helping with the company values, then we're going to increase loyalty. We're going to improve employee and team experience. And the most important part maybe is that we're going to cut down on staff turnover. You know, that turnover that there's certain people who we need to promote to a customer, as we used to say, but there's also people who we really want to retain and we want to keep their talent and we want to continue to grow so that we can support them and it's supporting the company. So I first heard about the 5 languages of appreciation in a workplace when I started to explore a different book by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages. In this book, it really starts to examine how different personality types give and receive love. And I had just met my husband, so we're talking 2003, 2004 timeframe, and I knew that I wanted this to be a long-term relationship and I wanted to be able to communicate better. And I wanted to better understand ways to show him that I appreciated him, that I loved him, but I also wanted to share with him the way that I needed it as well. So all the relationship gurus at the time were saying, make sure you communicate what it is that you want and what you need so that you get a more fulfilled relationship. So we read that book together and we came up with our primary love languages, which was really interesting. Maybe that's for another episode. However, this led me to really thinking about other relationships in my life and how I could use the 5 love languages to have better relationships with them. And primarily at the time, I was the general manager of a restaurant. So I was trying to figure out how to even better lead my team and have a better relationship with them in our workplace. So interestingly enough, a little bit later, a book came out called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. Now, this is one that Gary Chapman ended up co-writing with Paul White. And it really talked about how leaders can effectively show appreciation and encouragement to their team. And what I want to cover today are the 5 languages of appreciation, but I also want to talk about the difference between recognition and employee appreciation. So if you're down for that, give me 15 minutes of your time and we are going to get right to work. All right. So Trian, how do I tell my employees that I appreciate them in the workplace? Well, first of all, I want to tell you, be authentic to making it comfortable for you to give that information. But we also want to make sure that the person that we are giving that appreciation to feels like an individual and it is created for them. So again, not all employee appreciation is one size fits all. One employee may really like maybe an invitation to a football game. Another one might want just a simple favor, maybe a word of thanks or a note left on their desk. So when we think about it, which of the 5 languages of appreciation you choose to express is going to depend on the person you're giving it to, because how is it that they best receive it? Because if I leave a thank you note on somebody's desk and words of affirmation, which is number 1, is not their love language or their language of appreciation, they're going to be like, well, that's nice. But if their language of appreciation is small gifts, if I show up to the office with a favorite drink of theirs or a favorite snack just because, then they are going to feel like I was thinking of them and feel more appreciated. So are you seeing how this works? Okay. So employee recognition versus employee appreciation. So recognition and appreciation can overlap, but they're also not identical. Recognition is typically tied to some sort of performance and can lead to promotions. It can go to pay raises. It can be awards. Appreciation is a little bit broader and it's maybe not as formal because it is giving some sort of encouragement, maybe for a struggling employee, or it's also just letting somebody know on your team who maybe doesn't get recognized enough because they're always doing a great job, that you really appreciate what it is that they are bringing to your team on a daily basis and what really makes them stand out. So you can express appreciation for an employee that maybe is really embodying those company values on a regular basis, or at a singular time. Maybe they helped with customer service, or they helped with the marketing, or they helped with a great idea for the company to expand. So we want to think about 2 different scenarios. So there's that global recognition, right? It's when a leader says, thank you for your service, remarks to maybe a whole group of workers who've gathered to celebrate like a career milestone. They eat cake, they compare matching gifts. You got a watch, you got a trophy, you got a calendar, whatever that almost like a blanket type of recognition is for some sort of happy occasion, whether it is a anniversary with the company, or maybe it is a promotion that you got, but really over the top, it's not something that's very personalized. Individual and authentic appreciation is when a leader says, hey, can I just get a 10-minute check-in and give some sort of positive feedback? She thanks them for long hours or their creative thinking or helping with a major project that they just wrapped up. But she shows that appreciation in a way that then means the most for that team member. So formally recognizing employees for their achievements or their tenure is going to be always welcome in the workplace. That's one of the ways that we have built a great culture in some of the teams that I've supported, is those milestones. How long have they worked there? What kind of awards or achievements have they earned? Maybe you have a contest and they win that contest. But regularly expressing just appreciation in a casual manner is highly accessible, and it's a direct way for you to help your team feel valued. But it's also the one that seems to be missed the most and can make a huge impact on your culture. So we want to make sure that those global gifts, obviously they're going to feel like they're not very sincere because they're global. Everybody kind of gets the same thing, right? When it comes to appreciation, the languages of appreciation, instead, we really identify what that person would value the most, and we go with that type of appreciation or that type of gift or that type of way of sharing that we appreciate them. So, all right, Trian, how do I even know what a person's language of appreciation is? I mean, I don't even know what mine is, right? So, the first thing that I would say is recognize your team's individual efforts. Really think about their character traits, or if you've listened to stories of them on a personal basis, what kind of personal things have motivated them? What are you hearing? And then you're going to tailor your appreciation to suit each one of those people in an appropriate way. So, the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to just observe your team. So, typically, a person's language of appreciation is that they want the most, is the way that they express it the most. So, if your team member is always bringing coffee or donuts or treats in, or they are showing up with candy bars, snacks, whatever, they're giving those gifts, then we know that as an individual, that is something that probably makes them feel important. However, if your person is always writing thank you notes, thank you cards, making sure that the other people on the team get birthday cards, it's written, right? Those words mean something to them. So oftentimes they're a person that is words of affirmation. The other thing that you can do when you're observing is really listen attentively, really listen. Work backwards by really looking at how, when you have FaceTime with that person, have they shown another person appreciation? Because typically, again, or even asking them, when's the last time that you felt recognized? When's the last time that you really felt appreciated? This is a question that I actually ask in my upfront interviews with people, because once they start to work as a part of our team, then I want to know what that language of appreciation is for them right off the bat, so that I can make sure from the very start, I'll even write it in their notes from the very start, how does this person learn the best? And what is this person's language of appreciation? How do they like to be told that they're doing a good job? And what better way than for them to just tell you? Okay. So, all right, Trian, what are the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace, and what in the world do I do with them? Well, when I'm doing coaching one-on-one with some different leaders that are leaders of their own teams or their companies, or they are even office managers, and they want to build the culture within their team, one of the very first things that we cover are these 5 languages of appreciation, because what I'm finding is not a lot of people are taking the time to think about this, and even more so, they don't even know that it exists. And it's interesting, once they start to think about the different people that are on their team, they can completely recognize what it is about that team member that makes them feel the most special. So here's your number 1. Number 1 is going to be words of affirmation. So these can be verbal or they can be written, whatever your authentic approach is. Some people are still practicing trying to give that positive feedback in the moment. Once you do, it's a game changer. Notice it in the moment, teachable moments, and be as specific as possible. Something generic like, oh, good job, is not going to be as compelling or effective as really taking the time to compliment a specific skill or an action. So maybe an employee's quick thinking on the shift saved your company a customer service experience, or maybe it helped you retain a client who's been a client with you for a long time and they weren't sure what their next step was. So some employees prefer words of praise, but first we want to really understand if that is what our team member needs. So verbal affirmations can take place in front of a lot of people, or they can be on a one-on-one meeting. Some team members actually really like positive remarks in front of their coworkers, while other people are really quick to kind of push it off and they want to be low key, or they want you to just mention it one-on-one. So know the person's comfortability first. Okay. So written affirmations are also a really effective way of showing appreciation. But again, consider how you're relaying that message and whether they would rather have it in public or they would have it in private as a compliment. Never underestimate the power of a handwritten note. This can deliver more impact than any everyday email. Those notes don't even have to be long, just honest and personalized. I actually kept an entire box of notes because I knew at the time I was definitely a words of affirmation. I needed to know that I was doing a good job, that I was contributing to the company in the way that they wanted, and that I was on the right path. Since then, my words of affirmation is not my number one, but for a long time it was. So I would take those notes, those cards, I would hold on to them in a box. And when I felt like, because, raise your hand if you've ever felt this way, but when I really felt as if I was having a hard time, or I was struggling, or I just wasn't at my 100%, I would read through some of those messages, some of those notes, some of those cards, just for the chance to remind myself that I was contributing and I was doing great, and I'd done it before and I can do it again, right? So that was number one, words of affirmation. Number two is quality time. So this means giving a person on your team your undivided attention. Encouraging people can be as straightforward as just showing up for them, really listening, and understanding their feelings. Even your body language, when you're open and responsive, can show that you're interested and supportive. So if you're just walking by a team member when you walk in for your shift for the day and you don't take the time to say hello, how are you, how was your morning, that can seem very aloof, or like that person wasn't, worth the time. So make sure that if you know you're working with someone who is a quality time team member, that you're taking that time to think about when you show up, making sure that you're saying, hey, how are you? How was your day? Tell me some things that are going on, before you jump right into business, business, business. Some people need that. And when they are talking business, because they're feeling personally seen and heard and supported, they're going to contribute even more to your team and the business. So you can give your time in a lot of ways. I'll just give you a couple examples. So you can share a meal time. You can, over coffee, have a conversation about something that's going on in the business or personally. You can go on walking breaks throughout the day. You could maybe even hold like small group sessions so that you can hear some of your team members' concerns. You could host a volunteer day where coworkers gather and do some community service or giving activities. Again, it's that spending of time, quality time. Or you could invite your employees to a fun, like problem solving activity. Another thing that I have done for companies are vision board classes or vision board get-togethers. And I've also planned a number of retreats. So those quality time pieces will do miles for your company culture and really bringing them together so they feel like they are a more connected part of the team. All right, number three is acts of service. So if you really see a coworker or a team member getting a little stressed under an immense workload, you could offer a coffee, you could offer your assistance, you could offer 5 minutes of your time to help them organize their tasks. Many team members don't want just another calendar or a tote bag or something with a company logo. They don't want praise either. They simply want to see that others that are working as hard as them are open to pitching in when needed. They really want that, like, I do this, you do this, we do this together type of atmosphere. But first, ask them if they want your help. Don't assume, because we don't want them to feel as if we think that they just can't do it. We may just kind of play detective and see what works. Avoid doing any tasks that give you the limelight. Maybe you could make them some copies, send follow-up emails. Maybe you could schedule a meeting. Maybe you could be the one to help them have a constructive conversation with a team member or another leader that's in your organization. We don't want this acts of service to feel as if this person can't do their job or do their job description. It's a way of saying, hey, I see that you're working really hard, and I want to help take some of these things off of your plate, or see if I can offer some sort of assistance. Whatever you do, keep it positive and follow through with what you say you are going to do. So number 4 is gifts. If your team members appreciate a tangible gift, also then make sure that it's personalized for them. take some extra effort to figure out their interests in those day-to-day personal conversations that you have. I actually have a note on my phone that has the main players in my businesses and the things that they like, right down from colors to snacks to things that I've heard them talk about that they got for Christmas that they really enjoyed. And I just, after I have a conversation with them, I just jot a note in there so that if I want to get them something special the next time that I want to reward them, if they're a gifts person, then I easily have a list that I can go to. So I already know some of their favorite things. Okay. So where your workplaces might be remote or where you are maybe like a VA team, this can be especially challenging to be able to get to know each other. So one thing that you could do when somebody comes into your organization, I do this with my clients, is do a complete team questionnaire. And this is going to give you a glimpse of their hobbies, their passions, some of their favorite music, shows, books, snacks, drinks. That way, again, when you're going to personalize a gift for them, you already know some of their favorite things to be able to take from that list. And the presents don't have to be lavish. They just have to be tailored and personal for the person on your team that you're wanting to get them for. So some ideas to get you started. If an employee loves coffee, especially maybe from a local place, maybe instead of just emailing them a Starbucks gift card, you make an effort to get them one from this local preferred cafe. If maybe a worker or a team member is running ragged between work and family stuff, they've maybe commented on how difficult it is, like to get dinner on the table or to get home in time to get meals around. Maybe you could gift them like a meal kit subscription, or you could make them a prepared meal or set up a catering real quick for them that maybe it just needs reheating. Like we have a local place that does weekly meals that come in casserole pans that they can either freeze and use later, or they're just a real quick heat in the oven. An inexpensive employee appreciation can also be just in the form of their favorite treat, right? I absolutely love gummy bears, gummy worms. And I'll tell you what, when a team member, and Oreos, and I'll tell you what, when a team member wants to show me an appreciation or just show me that they've been thinking of me, that's typically what I get, is a bag full of gummy bears. Everybody on my team knows that that is one of my favorite things. All right, number 5, physical touch. So in the 5 love languages, physical touch is obviously a logical, expression between family and friends. But when we think about the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace, we know that physical touch can be something that we need to be careful of, or we just need to be aware of. So appropriate physical touch in the office depends on your team guidelines and the person who's receiving its own feelings. I mean, I am a hugger. My team knows that I'm a hugger. So when they see me, if they really feel like they need a hug that day and they want a hug, I'm a hugger. That's what I do. However, not everybody is a hugger. A lot of people need that personal space. So I just going to put that down here. Do not touch anyone who does not want to be touched. No exceptions. I had a manager once that I was just having a bad day. At this point, I can't even remember what the situation was, but I do remember his gesture. He came up to me and he said, "Can I hug you?" And I was like, "Yes, you can hug me." I don't even remember what it was about, but his gesture of knowing that that is really what I needed at the time, however, being respectful of my space, really stood out for me. So it's critical to really respect those boundaries. Other forms of physical touch can just be handshakes, fist bumps, high fives. Those are typically acceptable. So showing a genuine appreciation with those just brief, uplifting acts can go a long way. Physical touch shouldn't be the primary way that you show appreciation in the workplace. Just a pat on the shoulder doesn't also have to be forbidden. However, physical touch in the workplace is not typically a person's first language of appreciation, but high fives do go a long way. There's a lot of science behind the high five. In fact, if you listen to Mel Robbins, she has a book called The High Five Habit that I highly recommend, that even talks about how important it is for us to high five ourselves in the mirror. So if you get the chance to get that, I'll actually link that down below in the comments and the show notes. So the 5 love languages of appreciation in the workplace doesn't just apply to leaders and their direct teams. anyone at any level can express appreciation for their team. Any peer-to-peer appreciation is even going to carry into creating that culture that you really want to have in your company, that is inclusion, support, and those work relationships. I mean, we do spend more time with people at work than we do even with our own families some weeks. So just thinking of ways that you can show appreciation to create a space where people are comfortable, they feel valued, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they're excited to come and have their contributions show up at work every day. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you can have even a small takeaway from these 5 languages of appreciation. If this was valuable for you today, go ahead and pass this on to maybe 3 colleagues or 3 other leaders in your life that you know need this. If you're interested in further information on the 5 love languages, there's also a book called The 5 Love Languages for Children, and The 5 Love Languages first book by Gary Chapman is great to use for relationships. Go out there and spread productivity and positivity, and how we can make our workplaces great places to be for our teams, ultimately ourselves, and that will carry on to what we are giving to our clients and our customers. Thank you guys again for joining me today on Be That Create That, and we'll talk to you again soon. Hey guys, Trian here, back again. Just a thank you to being part of our podcast. We are loving all the reviews that we're getting, the messages that we're getting that are showing that the content is exactly what you need to be showing up as your authentic leadership self and for your teams and your business. Remember, we are also over on Facebook in the Female Leader Headquarters, and you can join us over there to continue the conversation about how we can lead our teams and start by leading ourselves. We'd love to connect with you over there. We're also on Instagram at TreeOnTop, and you can find us on TikTok at TreeOnTop. We'll talk to you soon.